I don't believe that it should be used as a means of birth control, which is terrible. However, ultimately, the people that view abortion as a crime and want to stop it and when life begins are, majority of the time, are very religious people. And I, as a religious person, believe that God gave us the right of free will. And what we do in this life, we will have to answer to our Creator when this life is over.
Okay. Second to last question, then we'll get to the last question. As a state official, I want to get your thoughts on the 10th Amendment and where you feel the federal government may be overstepping its boundaries with the state of Illinois. And if it does overstep its boundaries, or if it has, would you be in support of things similar to what I think Texas and Utah and a few other states have passed basically a law saying it's a states' rights law. Now this had actually more to do with gun control than other things, but now we're seeing issues with the health care where there could be a lot of burden put on our already difficult Medicaid system in the state of Illinois. It's the number one budget item. We have an incredible deficit in the state of Illinois. It's the deficit's at $11 billion a year now. It's almost 33% of the state budget. At what point do you feel that the 10th Amendment needs to be adhered to between the relationship between the federal government and the state of Illinois?
Well, I strongly support the sovereignties of the states, and I would definitely look into enacting some laws like some other states have enacted. I would definitely stand up to the federal government if they try forcing something on us. I currently believe that the federal government is too powerful. When our country was created, the federal government was meant to, for all the states, as a source for the states to lean on. And I believe really the federal government is the controlling body of the United States, of the people of the United States, not the states themselves individually, which really we should have here in the state of Illinois. We know what works in Illinois. What works in Illinois may not work in Texas or may not work in New York. And I don't believe the federal government should step in with blanket laws and say, okay, well, this is something that you guys need to do. Or like one good example is the speed limit. If you guys don't adhere to our speed limit laws, then we're going to cut your funding for roads. And they really use money as a bargaining piece. Do this or else you're not going to get all this money. And I think that that's wrong. And I would definitely step up to the federal government and make sure that the federal government stays out of people's lives as much as possible. We're about freedom in the United States and the right to do what you want. We have so many rules and regulations now that they're starting to trample on our rights of being able to do what we want.
Okay. Well, the last question, Thomas, is for you to look in the camera and talk to the people that will be viewing this and tell them why they should vote for you, what your qualifications are, and what are some of the top priorities you do as Lieutenant Governor.
Well, I'm the candidate that's most in touch with the people's needs. I'm a working class citizen, which gives me a unique perspective of how the current political system in Illinois is set up against the little guy. Many struggle to keep their homes, pay their bills, and keep food on the table, all this while they try to make a better life for their loved ones. As laid out on my website, tomforltgov.com, I have the most comprehensive plan to fix many of Illinois' problems. Some of those issues are making Illinois the green manufacturing capital of the United States. This will generate hundreds of thousands of jobs for all parts of Illinois over the next decade. We touched on earlier creating a 10-cent transaction fee on the stock exchange floors and all their electronic trading platforms, generating nearly $1 billion in new revenue into the state of Illinois a year without raising taxes. Stiffer mandatory minimum sentences for elected officials found guilty of corruption. Our elected officials should be held to a higher standard. I want to ban the leasing of public assets. We don't really have too much of an issue with it outside of the city of Chicago, but I'm sure everybody's still heard of the parking meter disaster with that. We're only borrowing against our children's future, and it doesn't make sense. If we can't support our society with these assets and the revenue generated from them, how are our children going to support their society without these assets, plus the added debt that we've incurred on their behalf? and it's really about the future. And that's what my candidacy is about, and that's one of the big reasons why I got involved, was for the future generations of Americans. I don't understand why humans, or we as Americans, our legislators, we're not thinking about future generations. We're not legislating in the future. We're legislating in the now, and we don't take into consideration how our laws will affect future generations of Americans. And I think that's a crucial flaw in the way that we govern. I'm also the only true political outsider in this race. I have no special interest whatsoever, and my family has no political clout whatsoever. I'm a true political outsider. No one has put me up to this, and I don't feel as though I've chosen to run for office, but rather that I've been drafted. I can no longer walk with blinders on and continue to ignore what is going on in Illinois. I love Illinois too much to just throw my hands up in the air, pay my taxes, and hope it doesn't get worse. My entire life, I've never been one to let anybody bully me or anybody around me, even if I didn't particularly care for the person that was being bullied. And that goes for our current leadership. I'm not going to allow them to continue the hardworking men and women of the state of Illinois, and ultimately put our children's future at risk as well. And no one can deny that we need to begin to rebuild the people's trust in their state government. And I believe that I'm the only candidate that can achieve this. I also was the first candidate in the history of Illinois, and if I'm not mistaken, of the United States, to personally collect nearly 5,000 signatures for my nominating petitions. That's the type of hard work and dedication I plan to bring to Springfield on your behalf.
Okay. Well, your website one more time if people want more information on you.
My website is tomforltgov.com, or you can also just Google Thomas Castillo. We've generated a ton of traffic online, and if you Google Thomas Castillo, you'll find that we own the first page of the entire first page of the search engine for Google.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Great. Thank you for having me.
All right.